And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the GT More Than Just Sales podcast. Here is national #1 salesman, leader of the greatest team ever assembled, and my dad, Scott Summers.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. And a big hey now. Yeah. Bye. Yes. Good morning to you. Good morning. Top of the morning. Got a special day here, Trev. We got my mentor, um, equity partner, just a great guy, and can't wait to chat with my friend Kevin Purdy. Kevin Purdy, what's up, buddy?
Good morning, Scott. Good to see you. Good morning, Trevor. Nice to be here, man.
Are you an early morning riser, Kev? I take you as an early morning riser kind of guy.
I used to be an early morning riser. Like I'd get up at 5 o'clock, 5:30, but now I backed that up to like 7:15.
All right.
I remember we were on the road doing a oh, by the way, do you like my music selection there for the intro, Kev?
Yeah, that's great. A little can't go wrong with a little food.
Well, I got to do a little trivia here since he's on here with us. So 90s band favorite, Kevin Purdy's favorite 90s band. Want to take a crack at it?
I'd go Pearl Jam would be my guess.
Oh, yeah, I think he knows you too well. That was the easy one.
That's also my favorite 90s band. So like that's I've seen them in concert a lot of times. So it's I got to see like I got to go to all in that time. I went and saw Nirvana, I went and saw Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots. Like that was my jam.
Good jam.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going, and that made me think of this too because I just kind of like arranged to go to Houston with Trevor in January, and I think that's where we were when you were talking about like the morning. I'm scrambling, getting everything set up for our room there in Houston, the meeting room, and I go up there and I never seen Kevin wearing his reading glasses, and he opens the door. He's like, his underwear, no shirt on, and he's like got his book in his hand. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm in here reading." Like, it's like, that was your morning ritual probably, and things have changed quite a bit now that you're equity partner.
Oh, I still read. Absolutely. You got it. Those habits that got you to where you want to be and where you want to keep going, you need to keep doing.
Yeah, it's one of the things I want to get to too is like self-improvement, and man, it's hard to believe it's like 10 years. I've been 10 years, like a decade, Kevin. Like what have you been? You're 2012, right? So what is that? 13, 14 years?
Yeah, 13. I'll be starting my 13th year in like a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to the doctor and Kelly's like, what are you doing today? I'm like, I'm going to the doctor and now it's like, 10 years ago, like I just go to the doctor, right? Just go to the doctor, go in there, get it done. Now I'm like, I'm going to the doctor. And I'm kind of like, what are they going to find here in my mid 50s, man? Like moving that way anyway. But it's a whole different feeling. But 10 years. Um, I want to hit it right here, man. Just like, I want to talk about like before symmetry, but I want to start like kind of like a big accomplishment. Like you started, one of the top producer in the company. You were the first person ever to do 100,000 in a month and all that. And then, you know, talk about the day that you hung out with Lynn Watkins, your mentor, because you got him to equity partner. You got Lynn Watkins, the brother of Casey Watkins, too. It's like not fair. Like Kevin gets to come in direct to Lynn Watkins, right?
Right.
But talk about the day and that you got to hang out with him, what he did for you when you ended up getting him to equity partner. Like that was a cool thing.
Oh yeah, we found ourselves in New Orleans, and I always wanted I always wanted a custom suit, and I've had like a semi-custom suit, but never like where you pick the fabric and they give you the pretty woman treatment from that movie type deal. And so yeah, we went and picked out custom suits, and he dropped his metal card down, and yeah, so that was a great time to celebrate hitting top contract, and you know with a custom suit that I still to this day will put on once in a while. We don't wear suits as much, but yeah, definitely.
Love it, man. So were there times along there, I got to know this, and this might even spark up some questions, from Trevor, kind of bring us all in. But I was the first person to get you to, I got you to equity partner, right? The first, and then you had a line of them after that, of course. Really kind of record-setting pace that happened. But you get Lynn Watkins to equity partner, and talk about like there was this famous thing, and we don't talk about it anymore. Maybe when you and Brandon are together, but it's always been kind of like this undercurrent, like this inside joke. Like Kevin called me in the quitting phase, right? And were there and we've kind of said offline, like, yeah, it wasn't really a quitting phase. It was just kind of like more like a gripe session. Like, you need to hear me out here. Like, this isn't working like I thought it was going to work. But was there ever a time when you were like, hey, I'm going to revert back to my superpower? Because look, you hung 300K in a year on your own pen, right? And that's like, this many people do that, right? Can do that, right? Or choose to do that, or whatever. But you were equipped for it. But like, here's that moment of putting on that jacket, with in New Orleans, and here's getting started in that journey. Were you ever kind of like, you know what, this whole building thing, I mean, I'm gonna revert to my superpower and do what I'm really good at.
Which your question is, do what I'm really good at it, just focus on sales or go back to what I was doing prior?
Yeah, just focus on sales, because like the building part of the element of building, just kind of like that discussion that you had with Brandon and basically kind of paraphrase it. It was like, man, I'm here agency owner or whatever, and this isn't all it's cracked up to be. Were you ever kind of like, I'm just going to produce, like, or kind of give up on that part of the dream?
No, I mean, and when I had that conversation with Brandon and Casey and Linwood, all separate conversations, I was still an agency. I was an agent. I wasn't an agency owner. Um, but the way out essentially to more financial freedom and attention and symmetry was the building. You know, that's how you really got attention. I can remember, when we do these fall tours and you're picking the lineup and what's the outline of the presentation going to be. You have your builders panels, you have your sales panels. To graduate to make it to the builders panel, that was what we were all aspiring to do. So, it was kind of like, hey, keep focus on hammer down on sales, but don't you dare stop recruiting. Don't you dare stop investing. Because if you want to get where we're at and kind of enjoy where we're going and growing, you got to keep building. You need a team. You need an army around you. Yeah, we'll be impressed with your sales. That's great. You're going to need agents like you and your agency to set the pace and be those top producers. But the way out is building. The way out is an army.
Back in those days when you first got started, you were a pioneer in a lot of ways, because you were the first guy to really come in here and just crush production, right? And at that time, there was like a national sales trainer, right? It's like, the guys needed to duplicate themselves, right? And there was a guy actually kind of traveling. I can't remember his name, his first name,
It's Ed. Is
Ed.
that
Yeah. And Ed was kind of that guy that was kind of traveling around to sales meetings, kind of like telling everybody like how to do the presentation, right? And then you kind of like mixed in with that group of traveling around, and but you were like kind of like pioneered like what can be done here. So and you were like the showcase, like hey, like this is what can happen here, at Symmetry. How did that feel? Like a lot of retribution, from your previous sales careers.
Yeah, just always being in sales my whole life, always being judged by the leaderboard. It felt good to be up in the top of the leaderboard. But having been in sales all those years, I really focus on just being humble. I just didn't want to be that top sales guy in a community that everybody kind of frowns upon, or be that top guy that's like, if you're the brand new person on a team and you're like, hey, yeah, and you kind of talk down to them, or you don't value those people coming up, there's there's people that are going to always remember that. So I always remembered how in an organization, how the people made me feel when I was brand new and how they empowered me when I was a nobody. I always wanted to be that person to have that kind of that a mentorship, and that like he's a good dude, kind of, and he helps, and he's not full of himself.
We always had this little like side joke about like the you didn't want to be that guy growing up in like our old sales company where we worked, on Monday morning, like, yeah, the leads. You didn't want to be like that guy, like, 20 years into this,
Oh
you
yeah, I'll
wanted.
give you a quick story. Like when I was did my internship, and for a year and a half after college, I worked for Mutual New York, downtown Rochester, New York. I had to wear a suit every day. My sales manager, Angelo Picone, Italian guy, and he groomed me on like what to wear, how to behave, how to act, everything in the business community. And one of the things was riding elevators, elevator etiquette. And I had long moved on from that business, and here I was in the sales company, and one of their top guys, Peter Wilson, we're on this packed elevator at this conference, and he's on the elevator, and he's kind of holding court, being all full of himself. And the elevator, we come to our floor, and it opens up, and he just kind of steamrolls right off the elevator, like, excuse me. And I was always groomed like, hey, as a man, you put your arm like where the doors are, and you always let the ladies off first for the most part. Sometimes hard to do if you're getting off, but especially when you're getting on, you always hold your hand, your arm up, and let the ladies on. Just that little stuff, really made an impression. I was like, man, what a jerk. Like, well, he's a loser. And so that's why, like, when we talk about conferences and everything, and people, I think it was said on a call recently, like, you might not feel like you're a nobody as a team leader or a top producer, but your team and the new people behind you, you are somebody. And so they're watching you. So when I was brand new, and it was like I watched how people behaved in the hallway. I watched what they said, how they carried themselves, um, because that just told me a lot.
For sure. So this is when Scott said you were on. I want to tie this back into something going from producing to building. It's kind of where we started going down that road. For you, what, not from a financial standpoint, but from a growth standpoint, what was like one of the books as you started really making that transition? Like, hey, I'm really going to build the team. What is a book you can look back at that you can share with people on this, listening to this, that would say that hurt when you read it and made it grow? Like I have one right now that is just kicking my butt. And it's a good kick in my butt, but it's really getting me to look at things and making sure, I'm, doing things the way I want to do it. Do you have one you can look back and say, wow, that book really helped me grow?
Definitely a Carol Dweck mindset, that really helped me understand that for a long time when I was a kid, I had a closed mindset, which really can affect you. Like I quit too early, and if it didn't come easy, I quit. And so that whole book put it in perspective for me. Um, and that was a big one for me. I actually recommended it to Symmetry years ago when we did a book club, and brought that to Symmetry. People had a lot of good traction out of that. I like that one. Um, and the Millionaire Mindset by T. Harv Eker, that one really, that was the foundation that helped me springboard into the Symmetry environment.
So, like with that, like how did you start mapping, like as I'm building my team, like this is right, like this is the story I want to tell, right? Like this is what matters most to me. This aligns with not only Symmetry's values, but my values, and how did you like map that out?
How did I map out like the culture of building my team, or map
Yeah.
out like
Yeah,
what?
the culture of building your team. Like, this is what I'm looking for. This is what is important to me. And this is how, right, like I want to go build it. Because it's very, right, how we recruit now is very different in some ways. Some of it's still the same, but very different from when you first got going and really started building.
Yeah, like in the early days and for a long time, Trevor, I felt like, and I've said this before, but like being an only child, having good dudes hanging out with friends like Linwood, my mentor, his brother Casey, Brandon. You can throw Edward Pritchett in there. Um, I felt like if you ever saw that movie Almost Famous, you
Yeah.
know, and the kid is hanging out on the bus with the band. I just felt like I'm with the freaking band. This is cool, And this feels great. And it's not about me being the lead singer, but hey, do you want to come? I can get you on the bus and hang out with the band because we're this band's going somewhere. So for me in those days, it wasn't about the Kevin Purdy agency culture or about me. It was really like, how can I get people to hang out with the band and see what the bigger picture is doing as opposed to just me?
That was perfect because I had a feeling that would be the direction you went because I've watched from afar now as I've gotten to know you here and the time I've been here. So for the agents that are on here that are even newer than me, because I'm new, I'm still pretty new in this. But one of the things I heard a lot was don't wait to build. Don't wait to build. Like if I could go back, I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't think I got to know everything. And how do you encourage them to say, hey, come get on the bus with us? Like, how do you encourage that, that person that's on this call and says, hey, I don't know how to build yet. Like, how do you encourage that person to say, come on the bus with us because the door is opened?
Yeah, it's like think about the people that wouldn't it be a lot more fun to the people you already have, that trust and you like hanging out with, you have had fun, you had those memories, those experiences. Wouldn't it be cool to share another new experience? So um I and I get that by telling stories, but also like telling the story like I would not be here if my friend waited to build. So he got it. Like he didn't wait until he was somebody to introduce me to Linwood. He just did it. It was kind of like the bus is leaving. Are you coming or what? Check this up. And I took a look at it. And that hesitation can really can hurt people. Because and Casey and Brandon talk about this. One day Brandon would be like, "Woohoo, this is great. I got all my leads and sold every one of them." And Casey's down here like, "Oh man, I've had 4 appointments and nobody's home or whatever." And so it's that that bonding, that team, that partner to have, that when you're up, they're down. So if when Scott comes in and he's fired up about a conference call, he's fired up about look at all these leads they have, then that keeps me at a higher altitude. So then it just doesn't become about me and my emotions and my feelings in that present time. It's about other people. And that is insurance right there. Because I could have had a bad day, but he's having a great day. This works. And it's always looking ahead. I was always looking at Linwood. I was always looking at Casey and Brandon, like, wow, they have like 200 agents. If I keep doing what I'm doing right now, imagine like I feel it, I believe it that I'm gonna have 200 agents one day. So it's working for those dudes, it's gonna work for me.
Love it. Yeah. And I want to dig in on that moment when Kai approached you at the birthday party, right? And said and brought this up. Now you hadn't read the Karen Dweck model, the book, right? And you didn't look at like your time, just driving around, like you said, and young guy just out of college trying financial services. You didn't have that kind of feeling like, oh, I quit too early, right? You were like, oh, that just wasn't for me. I would, I kind of wonder. I mean, this wasn't the real question I was going for, but like, did you ever have that kind of feeling like, man, I did quit too early. I just gave up on that too early. Like, if you ever had that feeling before that you read that book.
Oh,
But
sure. Yeah.
yeah, and so like Kai approaches you, and you almost did a spit take, and you're just like, you've told that story to me a million times. Like, there's no way I'm doing this, right? So, just kind of go back to that moment, and then how curiosity got touched enough for you to look at this really seriously.
Well, when he first proposed it to me, my first reaction was no. If you go back 15, 20 years, I was a no guy. No, I don't want 4 kids. No, I don't want this. No, no. I was happy, but my first reaction was no. He said that to me at a birthday party. I was like, no. And so if you think about that I said no like once. And then 2 days later, he calls me again. So in that moment, like it was like, are you sure? Like, dude, he tried again. He wanted a friend. He wanted a buddy to do this with. And so again, he didn't quit on me as a friend. Like you're being a knucklehead. Check this out. This guy, I told him about you. He wants to talk to you. What's your problem? You're going to do this for me. And so it was that. So when I look at and where I was at that point in my life, I wasn't, I was, man, I was hurting. I wasn't where I was financially before. I was struggling making six figures, like 110,000 in 2011, where I used to make like 260,000. My mindset was horrible, and like Scott, during that time of the year, we were in the same business. You're smoking it, man. You were doing 200. You probably did 200 plus thousand, 2011. So I look at that building early and understanding that what you might see on the outside of a person is all BS in a lot of ways. Like it's
Yeah.
BS that you gotta spend some time and get in there a little bit deeper, let it saturate to really find out. And that sometimes that a lot of times takes work to get people to that point.
Yeah. Perfect lead into this. Like we're riffing here, like Pearl Jam. No, it's culture. You told me when you didn't give up on me, right? Um, and you made that second or third call, or I think you kind of let off on the phone calls and the pushing on it. I just kind of started seeing like now my curiosity's peaked. Like, what's going on here? Like, what is happening? I had to take a closer look at it. But one of the things you told me was culture, right? Culture didn't you kept telling me, oh man, that's great culture. These guys, I mean, you got to meet them in Nashville. Like you need to come to Atlanta. This is our back when the conferences were in Atlanta, and you kept saying that word culture, culture, culture. I think you become part of your environment, right? And those of you that know Kevin now, like I am telling you, like when he talks about self-improvement, dude, like there's no comparison to where you were like 15 years ago. I knew you, man. Like it's Kevin and I we went to after you've been with Symmetry for a couple of years where there was a lady who did something in a line. We were at a concert or like a little park venue, me and Michelle Kelly. And I think it was Hart. I think we went to go see Hart at the Fredericksburg Celebrate Virginia Live, whatever. And some lady did something to you in line or something, and then we ended up in the same tent together, right? She's kind of said something rude to you. And I'm like, dude, like the way that you handled that situation, I was like, that was way different than I was what the reaction I was expecting. But then there's been this ascent the whole way through from self-improvement, being a part of this culture. Um, and like I would say, you had a lot more Gordon Gekko in you back then, right? And so you've changed quite a bit. But just part of being part of this culture here. Did you ever really think that you would kind of work in this type of culture in comparison? It's night and day, right?
Listen, you kind of set up the question. I might have used the word culture too much, because I was trying to describe a feeling, but 13 years ago, I really didn't know anything about culture. Like the culture I heard about was maybe in sports teams, like how a coach leads his team and what they talk about there. But our business prior to this, everybody that I was involved with for pretty much my whole sales career managed from a point of fear, from aggression. And so that's how it's how we kind of learned, and that's what kept us inside the rails. There were people that you didn't really invite to your Christmas party. There were people that you just didn't have that pretty much that outside relationship in a business. And so I never really experienced that. And one of the frustrating things for me back like years ago was I had big dreams. I had big aspirations, when I was just a sales dude in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. There's this cool hamburger stand that I didn't have much money, but I promised myself I could get a hamburger, a cheeseburger there once a week. And it was like this little stand, and I'll go in there, I'm like, oh, this is so good. And one day on the cash register in writing, it said, now available franchises. Call this number, 703. I'm like, oh, wow. Wrote down the 703 number. And went back home that day and left a message, and they called me back. Some guy named Art used to be the kicker of the Redskins. I think one of those, I forgot, maybe it's not Art.
Mosley or no, different.
Could have been Mosley.
Mark Mosley was the kicker way back.
Yeah, I think it was him. And he's like, hey, Kevin, you're interested in this franchise? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, okay, I'm going to send you all this stuff, mail it out to you. Yeah. And like a week later, I get it. And it's like, you need 250,000 liquid and all this stuff. Oh, I don't have any of this. And that franchise was Five Guys. And so it was always like, how can I do that? But I don't have the resources. I don't know the people. And so in the Washington, D.C. area, I was like a blue collar salesperson. I would go and sell these people who had what, from my opinion, my vision, like the sexy jobs, selling to the government, selling in IT, selling, like these cool companies like Oracle was in Reston, and you had all this stuff. I wanted to be a part of that. And I'm a home improvement sales guy. So I was really a lone wolf in a lot of aspects because we had a sales meeting once a week. We assembled for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And other than that, I was always by myself. So an idea of culture or how things should or could be better really wasn't on that. So my frustration was, is this all it's, is this it? Like, I'm just going to be a home improvement sales guy in basements. And yeah, I make a good living, but I never like really went for it. Where's that kid that wanted to buy Five Guys? Where's that? I just got like kind of locked in and stable and didn't go for it. And that not going for it, kind of going back to that closed mindset really started gnawing on me.
Do you ever sit back and say what an impact, or do you ever think through like the impact that you've made on people's lives now? Like going from that, like you just said, like, yeah, I remember feeling that way too. It's like, is this it? Is this how I'm going to retire? Like I'm making good money. Is this what I'm going to be saying to my grandkids? Like, yeah, I was crawling around in crawl spaces and, in moldy basements. Is that what I did? But like your agency did $20 million last year. And like I was trying to think of a nice way to say thank you to everybody the other day, and I was thinking through like something popped in my head, like even the agent that came in here for a little bit, and they stuck around for a little while, and they wrote one application on their aunt, and then they quit, right? It's thank you to you too, because you gave hope to Sarah Engel because you brought her into she brought you in, and you got her fired up, and that helped a family and another family and a family, and it helped me, it helped us for our goal. Like when you think about like the distribution and everything that's happened here, like do you ever kind of just get a little touched because like, man, this is like, man, I've changed people's lives, definitely changed mine. But do you ever kind of like let yourself feel that?
No, honestly. I mean, I've had moments where, at a conference or things are good and seeing, your success with you and your team and your family and the other folks on the team, that feels great. But I think in a lot of aspects, Scott, I insulate myself from that, like it's all about me because it's not. Like all I felt like is I got you on the bus, I got you in the environment, but then you had to do the work. You had to grow yourself, you had to get out of your comfort zone. And I was just a part of it. um, and I got that kind of that attitude or that feeling from just Casey and Brandon, just that humbleness. And I was so attracted to that because I guess maybe because I was around so many like arrogant, which is fine, pioneer, tough sales guys that, check out my Porsche over there. Let's go out. And yeah, that works to some extent, but I was also really attracted to the guy wearing a flannel shirt, driving a beat up pickup truck that's super loaded and just a nice guy. Like you're not worried about what's going to come out of his mouth every 2 minutes, and I wanted to be more like Casey and Brandon and Linwood than more like that dude over there. So like I can remember years ago, we were in Whistler, Canada. I know a lot of people are in Whistler right now on the team, and we were on a chairlift. We were riding mountain bikes, doing downhill mountain biking, and it was three of us, myself, uh, Casey, and Brian Delaney, and we were talking about just conference, and Casey just had this like, you guys, just how stressful it is to plan 2 conferences a year. It's just like, and like Brian and I really felt it like, whoa, Dad, are you okay? And he goes, I think we might have to, turn having some conferences over to the directs and stuff. And we looked at each other like, no. you know. So it's just that kind of that's the vibe that was always being fed to us in a lot of ways. So going back to Trevor's question, that's the kind of culture that I felt like we could all win with, is being part of a bigger culture. Because I knew if I started changing a lot of things and just talking about, Summers, I know one of your favorite movies, we actually watched it over the weekend, was Planes, Trains, Automobiles. If I start changing like that Kathy Dial, Steve Martin goes, like, if I kept pulling the string, like, let me tell you how great Purdy is and why Purdy agency's the best and Purdy's going to dominate, Purdy, then all of a sudden I know I'm going to attract somebody just like me, that then all of a sudden you brought your person in to be attracted to Purdy. Then all of a sudden they want their own chatty copy down. Let me tell you how great Tipton. And we lose all of that. We lose that whole culture. That if I was such a culture master, if I was so great, I would have been in this business a long time ago. So that's why I'm a fan of the Casey Brandon Bryan band, and not necessarily like, I'm good with that.
So how do you now, right, at this point of your success, giant agency, a lot of agents from directs like Scott and Kelly, to Brad and Kara, Janet, George, everybody. I mean, like, how do you decide how to allocate your time now when you have this big of an agency with this many agents? Um, Something that stuck with me is Sarah Reineke likes to say success leaves clues. So what clues are you looking for on how you want to in people you see coming up in Symmetry? What do those clues look like to you where you're like, okay, hey, that's somebody, I want to invest some of my time into?
It's a good question. Well, use you as an example here. Where do we see Trevor Tipton's name? We see it on future AOs. How many writers you have? We see that. So that's a sign. Where do we see it as consistency in the leaderboard? One of the things, and we've had agents for years that you can tell when their bank account's low. They'll come in, they'll write $20,000 worth of business. They'll be on the leaderboard. They might even be invited to a conference call. And then all of a sudden you don't see them for 3 weeks or 3 months. And so we're looking for consistency. We're looking for consistency in recruiting and sales. And then a good attitude too. Because, I know Scott can, you can smell it. You can smell, like, there's people also that will feel like, oh, I had a good week this week, but I don't know. I don't know if I can do it again. And that you don't have that confidence, and that. So where I allocate my time is I'm looking for that type of combination. People are showing up. Little things like my directs will tell me, and then you go underneath, like a good example was, I was talking to Linda Chung the other day. She was on the call. It's like she's filling me in on stuff. So I can look at my agencies, and you have the direct, but then you have their directs, like, that kind of fill you in on, hey, this person's doing the right thing. And so if you inspect enough and you ask these questions of your directs, then they start feeding you that information that for years you've been asking about, and Scott has said this to me in the past, where, yeah, all they're doing is sales, which is great, but it's kind of like, we know the best insurance for people is building a team. And so we have these expectations of when a person comes in to sell, get on calls, have the right investment every week in leads, put in the right activity, counsel with your mentor, call from the appointment. but in building, there needs to be that expectation. And so I think like somebody like in Scott's position right now, it's very easy for him to say, okay, yeah, you're going to get my attention from selling. Here's the expectations. But if you really want to be on the team, you really want to be on the bus and hang out backstage, then the expectation is building. And the expectation is growing a team. And my expectation is you are bringing in your warm market. Why is that important? Because you wouldn't be talking to Scott Summers right now if my friend didn't approach his warm market. So it's those time, like where you spend your time and kind of the signs you look for that I look for on that. But then the other fun thing for me is you know, reaching out to a brand new person, because for me, I get that actually gives me a little bit more fuel. If you just became a key leader, or maybe you've been here 3 weeks or 2 weeks and wrote 15,000, and to call that person and say, hey, congratulations, man, keep doing what you're doing, and kind of set those expectations again, and then hear people's like excitement, like, oh, this is incredible, we're registered for conference, we're going this. That's where I a lot of times will be like, ah, you know, this is cool. Like I get more juice out of the new people than, let's say, an agency owner. No offense to any agency owners on the team that have been here 4 years.
Love it. Well, let's see. So trying to pick the perfect thing to close on. And I was thinking about, everyone always wants to know, like, what's next, right? Like you just said, we talked about this a little while ago, like, what's next for me, right? And here, look, you're an equity partner. You're one of the biggest agencies in Symmetry. You've accomplished a lot, right? I remember I was sitting there with we just got done shooting like that in-home video 3-4 years ago. And I was at your house and we were sitting out there by the pool, and you're, every Floridian with a nice home that really has like one of those screened in, that screened in, like, what do you call that? A pergola? What is that outside space? It's all, yeah,
covered pool, maybe.
Covered pool. Yeah. Yeah. So we're all hanging out, I don't know. We had a little, fireplace. Anyway, Michelle's out there. It's just me and Kevin and Michelle, and we're hanging out. And I'm like, I want to know, like, what do you want? Like, what do you from here? What does that look like? And I remember, Michelle was like, ooh, honey, he wants to hear about our dream space. I'm like, yeah, that's right. I want to, yeah, you have a dream space? I don't have a dream space. I want a dream space. Like, what's going on here? Tell me about the dream space. So like, what is it? Like, look, I got, I got a dose of like what was coming, a couple of years ago or last year at Michaela's wedding, man. You dropped, 6 figures. That had to feel really good, to do this for your daughter. But like, what does this look like? What for you in the future?
It's definitely like experiences and family, I I think that's the best thing for us is creating, you're talking a lot today about culture, which is your family culture. I feel really grateful and blessed that as of right now, all our kids are in the area. My two older kids that graduated from college are, right where we live here in Florida. We got one daughter in college right now in Miami, and Evan's setting up to go to college next year. So kind of having everybody in this area, daughter being pregnant, future grandpa here, that's really cool. So it's how do I create that kind of environment for my family to really grow and mature and set their vision and their goals, what they and their families can accomplish. Because like my grandpa, my dad's dad, Grandpa Purdy, he had a big impact on my life. And so when I can look at him and be like, what type of grandpa can I be for my kids? And having my kids want to spend time and be around here, I think is a nice, cool thing, is that like they come over for Sunday dinner, they want to be there, they have fun, they have that interaction between between them. That's what I look at, like putting an addition on the house, outdoor kitchen, maybe a little casita they call it, with like a bedroom and out there, and do more traveling too. Um, Taking the kids on experiences, I highly recommend that. If you have children and you get to a place where, Scott, like I know you just took your family to New York City, and you give them those experiences when you're sitting around, out to dinner, or they're at the house, they're going to share those common experiences. They're going to talk about it, and also they grow from it. I can remember when we were in Roatan, and we were just driving on, it's a third world country in El Salvador there, and dirt roads, and my kids are just like, wow, those experiences really make an impression on people. So that's kind of where I see the vision of personally my family and stuff, and then from the business again that excitement of watching your team, your agency grow. My expectation is you're going to have like 3-4+ directs easy. What people like Trevor come into your agency, that excitement and growth. I mean, that's really cool to see, and that's kind of from the business side, is just growing that footprint within the business.
Love it, man. Well, you definitely set the table for everything that you want, and it's been a great ride, my friend. I appreciate your time, and thanks for stopping by, and looking forward to growing with you. Thanks, buddy.
Hey man, it's been a fun time, buddy.
Yeah.
10+ years, good job. Let's make another 10+ fun years, and keep growing your team. Living on the island there, you're an island boy now. Go play that song by Kenny Chesney.
Yeah, there you go. We love it. Well, this is what this career has afforded us. So we appreciate it, man. Appreciate all your help and your mentorship.
You bet. Everybody
Thanks,
take
buddy.
care.
All right, appreciate it. Bye,
Go
guys.
ahead.
See ya.
Bye.